This video is sponsored by Connell Guides. To get your hands on the most intelligent study guides on the market for GCSE and A-level English literature, as well as GCSE and A-level history, visit connellguides.com and use code RS15 at checkout for 15% off your order.
The balcony scene is one of the most iconic parts in the whole of William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. But which annotations could you make for this part of the play? Let's find out. How's it going, Revision Squad? DystopiaJunkie here with another GCSE English Literature video for you. In this one, we are going to annotate the balcony scene, which of course comes from Act 2, Scene 2 of William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. So in this video, we are going to work through the balcony scene and I'm going to provide over 24 annotations for it, focusing on how it helps to create certain impressions about the play's characters, how it relates to the play's key themes, and how it formally works as a piece of drama. As with my other annotation videos, I strongly suggest that you have a copy of the play in front of you, at least 3 different highlighters, and a pen to make notes with. This is number 4 of 8 annotation videos that I have planned to make for Romeo and Juliet. If this video helps you out, please do let me know. You could do that by dropping this video a like, leaving a comment on it for me to read, sharing the video around with anybody else who might benefit from watching it, and you could of course subscribe to my channel too if you haven't done so already. Okay then, let's get stuck into annotating that scene. So as I said in the video introduction, I'm going to be making annotations that relate to the play's characters, themes and form. In these annotation videos, when I say form, I mean how this extract functions as a piece of drama. That means I will focus on the extract's relation to the overall structure of the play, whether it uses any dramatic devices, what audience responses might be, and so on. Moreover, some annotations might relate to more than one category, so if you see something that is shaded both blue and green, for example, that is your cue to know that its comment is about how the extract relates to the play's characters and themes. So Act 2, Scene 2 opens with Romeo on his own in the Capulet orchard, having just abandoned his friends Mercutio and Benvolio. After wandering around the orchard for a moment, Romeo sees Juliet appear at her bedroom balcony, which prompts the dialogue you can see on screen now. And the first thing that sticks out to me about this dialogue is the light imagery that is apparent in these lines. Now this light imagery evokes the theme of love, given the stereotypical association of brightness with beauty. As Romeo talks about Juliet's beauty by using light imagery, he also compares her to the moon, who is apparently jealous of Juliet's beauty. Classically, the moon is associated with the Greek goddess Diana, who is not only seen as the goddess of the moon, but the goddess of chastity too, and it appears to be this second aspect of her that Romeo alludes to. You see, the phrase vestal livery means virginity. We know that Romeo intends to allude to this because the green sickness he mentions links to an illness called the green sickness in Shakespeare's time that physicians thought only affected young, unmarried women. Anyway, Romeo tells Juliet to shrug off her virginity, claiming that only fools cling to it, which therefore brings his intentions into question. Does this young Montague wish to romance Juliet or just sleep with her? Now the next thing that stands out to me is the dramatic form of this dialogue. It is a soliloquy, given that it is Romeo's inner thoughts and not something he is expressing to another character, and so his near obsession with Juliet in these lines shows that he is overwhelmed by his feelings of love for her. And last, where we see exclamations in Romeo's lines, we could say that he is a character who is easily swayed by strong emotions. He is not necessarily a measured, logical chap. Romeo's soliloquy comes to an end when Juliet starts to speak. In this part of the scene, Romeo listens to Juliet as she talks, although she doesn't know that he's there. So when Romeo remarks that Juliet is over his head, this phrase obviously refers to the scene's staging, for Juliet is probably situated at the upper stage during this scene. However, this phrase could also allude to and foreshadow the power imbalance in Romeo's and Juliet's relationship. If she is physically higher up than he is, it could suggest that she is superior to him or is more dominant as well. In these lines, Romeo's excessive poeticizing reinforces the impression that he is a Petrarchan lover because he is going a bit over the top with his use of imagery and hyperbole. One of Juliet's first lines in this scene is the famous "O Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo?" A question that I'm sure you know sees her ask why he is Romeo, why is he a Montague? This question presents Juliet as wise because she shows an awareness that it is Romeo's family, as the conflict that they have with her own, that is preventing them from being together. Because Juliet is wise, this could also suggest that she is mature beyond her years. Next, I want us to think about Romeo's aside. An aside is when a character makes a quick remark that only the audience can hear. Now in this aside, Romeo questions if he should speak up and alert Juliet to his presence or if he should listen more instead. Now this makes me wonder if Romeo is being presented as being cowardly, is he too afraid to speak up? Or if he is being presented as sneaky because he wants to listen to Juliet reveal all her secrets just that little bit more. And last, Juliet's logical deconstruction of the dilemma facing her, which is apparent in how she suggests that names are, in fact, meaningless, and so they should not prevent the two lovers from being together, suggests that she is a very thoughtful and reflective character, which makes her the antithesis to Romeo's emotional impulsiveness. Romeo speaks up, finally, and then the two lovers begin their conversation. We see that Romeo uses religious language in his dialogue, which recalls the shared sonnet from Act 1, Scene 5. Because he continues to use religious language in his romantic expressions, the idea that his love possesses a strong devotional quality is reinforced. As if to contrast with his romantic devotion, Juliet's references to Romeo's likely murder if the Capulets find him serve as a reminder of the conflict and violence that permeate Shakespeare's play. Moreover, because these references to violence come so shortly after Romeo's romantic expressions, the tension between love and violence in Shakespeare's play is reinforced, because the two seem to be inseparable. And last of all, for this mini extract, Romeo's poetic, romanticised responses to Juliet's warnings of death create the impression that he is a carefree character who lives in the moment. He is not particularly bothered about death. Instead, he cares about being with Juliet. The two lovers continue to chat, as if in response to Romeo's carefree dismissal of the prospect of his murder, Juliet stresses that it is the last thing in the world she would want to see, which the young Montague more or less shrugs off, saying he will be fine because he could just hide because it's dark. The contrast between their reactions then shows gender difference. Juliet is sensible, whereas Romeo is reckless. Now this recalls the opening scene, in which the lords and ladies demonstrate the exact same gender differences as well. Next, when Romeo states that he would cross the ocean to be with Juliet, his hyperbolic language reinforces the impression that he is easily influenced by his strong emotions. Now Juliet says that if it was daytime, Romeo would see that she is blushing. This means that she is embarrassed by Romeo's declarations of love. Now this could suggest that she is not used to experiencing such things given her young age and relative immaturity. Alternatively, it could see Shakespeare allude to the more formal, courtly expressions of love that were typical of Elizabethan England. As much as his play is set in Verona, all the trappings of Elizabethan England are apparent in it. Last, Juliet's increasing maturity is evident in how she asks Romeo to pronounce his love faithfully. This sees her show an interest in love, which marks a development in her character, given that only earlier on in the play did she say that marriage was something that she had not considered before. As such, she seems to be transforming from a romantically disinterested little girl to a romantically curious, if not somewhat assertive, young woman. Romeo and Juliet continue to talk in this little extract you can see on screen. And something that stands out to me is how Juliet interrupts Romeo in these lines. That's what the dashes indicate. If Juliet is interrupting Romeo, that to me might indicate that she is the dominant person within their relationship. Moreover, I think we also get the impression that Juliet is irritated by Romeo's overly romantic expressions. After all, if he swears by the moon, which comes and goes and changes on a nightly basis, doesn't that also suggest that his love for her is inconsistent? Juliet's irritation by this could relate to the fact that Petrarchan lovers, men who were over the top with their romanticism, were seen as unconventional in Shakespeare's time. Now, when Romeo asks Juliet what he should swear to instead, his inferiority in relation to her is reinforced because he asks for her opinion or approval and looks to her to tell him what to do. This reinforces the impression evoked by Juliet's interruption of him. And next, you could argue that Juliet is presented as unromantic or mature when she asserts that she does not want her and Romeo to rush into something. She does not enjoy the fact that their romance appears to be incredibly sudden. As such, she bids Romeo a good night at the end of this mini extract. But Romeo does not like the fact that Juliet is leaving him all on his own. He questions, somewhat pleadingly, "Wilt thou leave me so unsatisfied?" Now this question suggests to me that Romeo is a persistent character because he clearly wants something from Juliet, whereas the connotations of unsatisfied brings his intentions into doubt once again. Is he unsatisfied because she has not professed her undying love for him, has not kissed him, or has not satisfied him sexually? It appears that Juliet gives in just a little bit, for her use of romantic language not only sees her express her love for Romeo, but it shows how she has started to change since meeting and apparently falling in love with him. And sticking with Juliet, you could also say that her authority is evident in how she commands Romeo, telling him to stay a while as she deals with her nurse very quickly. And then we've come to the scene's end. You will notice that I have put some ellipses in square brackets here, and that's because there are parts of this scene that I have skipped. I've skipped them because they basically just see Romeo and Juliet speak incredibly lovingly to each other, thus more or less doing what they've been doing throughout this scene, and so any annotations I could offer for those bits might just be a little bit repetitive. What is not repetitive though is Romeo's statements that the evening has been dreamlike. This comparison relates to the theme of fate, for it suggests that although it has been wonderful, Romeo and Juliet have been powerless in their meeting this evening, and that something else has perhaps been in control of their meeting instead. In this line, Juliet's authoritativeness sees her subvert Elizabethan gender roles. Not only is she, a woman, telling a man what to do, but she is telling a man what to do in relation to a marriage proposal. A woman telling a man how he should propose to her would certainly have been unusual in Shakespeare's time, for men often decided themselves, or through discussions with their wives' fathers, how and to whom they should propose. Potential wives usually did not have a say in this matter. And last of all, and this is why I have condensed this part of the scene down, I want to quickly have a look at the fact that Juliet repeatedly enters and exits the scene at its conclusion. To me, this suggests that Juliet loves Romeo so much that she cannot bear to be apart from him for too long. How adorable. And with that annotation made,
I reckon that's a little over 24 annotations made
for the balcony scene. Thank you so much for watching. I really do hope that this video has helped you out as you study or revise Shakespeare's play. If I have managed to do that, please do let me know. You could give this video a like, leave a comment on it, share it around with anybody else who might benefit from watching it, and you could, of course, subscribe to my channel too if you haven't done so already. Before I finish recording then, all that there is left for me to say is that I hope that you have an awesome rest of the day. If you are revising, please remember to take frequent short breaks, as a burned out student is not a happy or successful student, which is what I think you deserve to be. So everybody is going to be making notes on how the balcony scene shows that Romeo and Juliet love each other. But why not talk about how the aside shows that Romeo is sneaky or cowardly?
how Juliet's interruptions of him suggest that she is dominant, or how at the end of the scene, Juliet's repeated entrances and exits show that she loves Romeo so much that she cannot bear to be apart from him.